Anyway, I started off without you. And I sold a lot of state secrets and a lot of very important things that we shared.
You have a piece of crack cocaine no bigger than this quarter that I'm holding in my hand, $1/4 of $1. We passed a law through the leadership of Senator Thurmond and myself and others, a law that says you're caught with that, you go to jail for 5 years.
You know, I've adopted the attitude of the great Negro at the time pitcher in the Negro Leagues, went on to become a great pitcher in the pros. And going, you're going to stand right next to me. There you go. And then we're going to have.
There you go.
Got it? Okay.
And the people in the back, you can spread out a little bit. Oh.
Okay, folks, so I thought this would be kind of fun to read this. Rob, a guy on Twitter, his post went pretty viral, and it just lists Biden's accomplishments, or lack thereof, I should say. So let's take a look at this. Yeah, he listed his accomplishments and, like I said, lack thereof in nearly 5 decades in politics, okay? And my question is, I've been bringing this up lately. I've been hearing it going around too. Do you think President Biden is the worst president in the history of the United States? Okay. So I think he is. I think Obama and him are nose to nose because Obama started all the division when he was president, but he wanted to be liked. He wants to, at least, even though he's morally corrupt, absolutely, and is just as bad as Joe Biden, he at least he had the presence. He had a good presence, a very convincing presence. Now, that doesn't mean he's a good person, but he had a very convincing presence. He was at least lucid, right? So, but Joe Biden, no. And so let's take a look at this. Biden's accomplishments after nearly 5 decades in politics. Remember, too, he was also called the senator for MBNA. And MBNA, you know, Delaware was where all the credit card companies, I think they're still there. All the credit card companies have their headquarters because I think there's some deal on like, there's no taxes, they don't have to pay taxes, something like that. So that's where they all are. And MBNA, I don't know if they're still around, but they used to be a bank and they were up there too. And they were a credit card company. So he was always doing the bidding of these people. So that was his nickname. Anyway, so let's take a look at this. 1973, Biden enters politics. Nothing, 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 nothing. 1977, Biden fights to keep schools segregated because, his quote, allowing blacks to integrate would create a racial jungle. And 1978 through 1987, nothing. 1988, ended presidential campaign after getting caught plagiarizing. Yep. And massively plagiarizing he lied about his degrees, his schooling, a bunch of other stuff. 1989 to 1993, nothing, just making money off American taxpayers, pocketing 10% for the big guy. 1994, writes the crime bill. We all know how that worked out. And I think that was a crime bill that just put like a ton of black people in jail for petty stuff for extended periods. A lot like what Kamala did in California, putting all those people in jail for having weed and then basically extending their sentences, like just allowing them to linger in prison. And then when their time came to leave prison, they weren't able to. They just didn't let them out. 1995 through 2009, absolutely zero, except making insider trades. 2010 eulogizes Robert C. Byrd, the former KKK recruiter. Boy, that was a stellar moment in his resume. 2011 to 2015, nothing. And in that time, I think he debated Sarah Palin. I think that's about it. 2016, called service members stupid bastards. Yep. 2017 to 2020, illegally retained and disclosed classified materials after his vice presidency when he was a private citizen. Yep. And the president is the only one who has a right to those. If you've been president and during that time you declassified stuff, that is legal, but he was not. So he retained classified materials and he had them in his garage. This was a time when he had been senator and vice president, so he doesn't have the right to have classified materials. He doesn't have the right to declassify them and put them in his garage, okay? And also at the University of Pennsylvania, his remote offices at the University of Pennsylvania, which are somehow there was a ton of funding from the CCP for for his office there for some reason. I think there's a center like the Joe Biden Center for scraping 10% off the top or something. 2020 to 2023. Oh boy. Yep, he sure did a lot. Not necessarily achievements, but he did a lot. Let's see. Botched Afghanistan withdrawal that led to, at least right off the bat, 13 service members dead in an explosion. And many people who grabbed onto planes, and some people who fell off, literally fell off those planes. It was pretty awful. And it was a mess. Left $80 billion plus in military equipment behind for the Taliban. Great. One of our greatest enemies, the Taliban. Fantastic. Although there is connections now that Afghanistan, because it has a lot of lithium, China, I have a feeling China again gave Joe Biden some money and said, if you get out of Afghanistan, we'll give you a couple $1,000,000 and then we can have access to these lithium mines. Because I know as soon as we left, China started building roads into Afghanistan. And so I suspect to do the mining there and get that lithium. Record high spending bills, energy dependent. Yep, we were energy independent during Trump. We are completely energy dependent now, even though we have incredible amounts of oil reserves. No, we're not going to use that. And he axed the Keystone Pipeline on his first day. So he's sure has done a hell of a lot to collapse. If you take this all together, and I'll continue, you can see that none of these are achievements. These are all minuses. This is all to collapse the United States, okay? All putting nails in the coffin here. Re-entered the Paris Agreement, which I think is a climate accords. Open borders, and that's one of the worst problems. Breaking record of number of illegals crossing the border. What do we have, 10 million now? 10 million recorded. I bet it's a lot higher. Record high inflation, record high gas prices, depleted petroleum reserves. Remember, he sold off a significant chunk of our strategic oil reserves to China. Yep. $200 billion has been sent to Ukraine to be laundered. Yep. So why do you think these even politicians, I'm talking both sides, Lindsey Graham, Chuck Schumer, these people, politicians on both sides, they'll get up there and they'll go, oh, but it's to help us fight this good fight, this worthy fight in Ukraine, to fight the great enemy of democracy. No, the enemy of your pocketbook, okay? And so it's a fantastic way. Now that we got out of Afghanistan, we had to find another way to launder money. So, Ukraine. And it's pretty sickening watching Zelensky build another mansion. Yeah. So classified documents, yep, found in his garage during a time when he was not president. So he did not have that permission to do that. Cocaine in the White House. Oh yeah, and that investigation ended with no results. I forget who was investigating it, Secret Service or DOJ. They said results inconclusive. There were no leads. Like, sure. Normalizing pedophilia. Well, there's an achievement for you, which he has done. $6 billion to Iran. Yep, one of our biggest enemies. Most vacations taken. Remember, he's got a lot of pictures. He's always going to the beach. DOJ weaponization. Well, I would add to that FBI weaponization as well. I think there are some decent people at probably lower levels in those organizations for sure. But right now they are being literally weaponized right now. And I say it's time for some big reform. But let's continue. So rigged, Dean 777 says, rigged his own disastrous election and presidency. Then the brainless one doubled down and spilled the beans and exposed it himself publicly. We put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics. That is a quote from Joe Biden. That is actually a real quote. Wasn't Biden the one that put in a bill to tax Social Security? He is. I meant to add that in and completely spaced it. You do realize he isn't smart enough to pull off the 2020 steal. He really thinks he won. The people behind the steal would be Obama, Pelosi, Schumer, and the rest of the deep state, some Republicans. Obama started the destruction of America while in office, and that's a very, very good point. Yes, Obama began this massive destruction. Now, have they been controlled by the deep state for a while? Yes, presidents since, I would think, at least we know George W. Bush for sure. From then on, and that's why it doesn't matter if it was a Republican president or a Democrat, they're all highly involved. I mean, let me tell you, George W.'s best buds with Michael Obama, the husband, wife of Barack, Barry Soetoro, or whatever his real name is. Yeah. So this is his third term in office. He needs a fourth to complete his goal. Yeah. That is the goal of this person, to complete the entire destruction of the United States and usher in, could be one world government, communism most likely. He left out taxing Social Security. Yep, he knows that. He did. He taxed Social Security. Yep, it's another way to steal. They're already taking our Social Security, but they decided to go ahead and tax it as well. Yeah, you thought they were the lowest scum of at the bottom of the barrel. No. They can go deeper. They can go underneath the barrel. Left out trying to prevent the first black person to be on the Supreme Court. And I don't know if that was Clarence Thomas or someone else, but there is footage of him talking to Clarence Thomas, and he was so condescending. It was pretty awful. So thank you for such a great summary. A 78-year-old two-time loser campaigns from his basement, picks the most unpopular vice president in modern history, receives the most votes of any candidate in history, suddenly at 4 a.m. in the morning. Confirmed in the middle of the night and an empty inauguration. 20,000 troops to protect him, and no one is allowed to question any part of it. Nope, and the censors are hard at work again. They were hard at work. They jailed people for saying that. For saying that, well, I'm going to question the election. Do you know we actually have a right to question elections? Like, we actually have that right. Anybody has that right. Like, that's just a simple query. Like, hey, I have questions about it. Could we recount? Could we question it? That's what they were doing the morning of January 6th. There was a committee. But nope, emergency. We've been broken into the Capitol. No, you ushered all those people into the Capitol, and then you disrupted that proceeding so that they couldn't look into the rigged election. Biden's morning schedule: 7 a.m., wake up. 7:02 a.m., take a crap. 7:04 a.m., get out of bed. I know what's good for the Negro, Joe Biden. Yep, he is chock full of great quotes from his history. He is basically, I had some thoughts on this. The whole trope, the whole stereotype about, well, the Hatfields and McCoys and the Appalachians and hillbillies and incestuous families, and racists hillbilly racists in the South. These stereotypes. It's kind of funny because I'm like, but Joe Biden is that. He's like the hillbilly of Delaware. He is the essence of that. This guy is like, if you want to see a stereotype in real life, it's more him. Incestuous relations with family members. Okay, so we're talking about Ashley Biden from her diary, showers with his 12-year-old daughter, taking showers. Hunter called him Pedo Pete. That's what Hunter Biden called him. Okay. You've seen the footage of him sniffing children. Posted a video the other day where he was talking to a girl and he's like, hey, just don't tell anybody. You're the sexiest girl I've ever seen. And she's like 15 or 14. Yeah. This is a racist. This guy has incestual relations with family. He is the hillbilly of Delaware. Let's just do it. And remember, the mullet that he's had for a long time, his whole career, that mullet was simply a cosplay to indicate to the union members that he was one of them. See, I got a mullet like you guys. I got a working man's mullet, and he hasn't done a day of work in his life. So, and remember this: if you have a problem figuring out,
you ain't black.
Here we go.
But if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black. But if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
Well,
But
there
if you have a
you
problem
go.
figuring out whether you're for me.
The hillbilly of Delaware. That's what he is. And let's see, what is this? Biden did what?
I did not share classified information. I did not share.
Let's take a look at this.
I did not share classified information. I did not share it. With my ghostwriter, I did not. Guarantee you did not.
My team and I conducted a thorough, independent investigation. We identified evidence that the president willfully retained classified materials after the end of his vice presidency when he was a private citizen. This evidence included an audio-recorded conversation during which Mr. Biden told his ghostwriter that he had, quote, just found all the classified stuff downstairs, end quote. When Mr. Biden said this, he was a private citizen speaking to his ghostwriter in his private rental home in Virginia. We also identified other recorded conversations during which Mr. Biden read classified information aloud to his ghostwriter.
Yeah. Anyway.
You can't make this up.
Okay. I like that guy, actually. Not Biden. That dude who puts those videos up. I like him. You left out his bill on Social Security. Yeah, we saw that. Yeah. Oh, yeah, and gay sex in Congress. Remember that? That guy who filmed himself having gay sex in one of the Senate committee rooms? That kid? I mean, he got fired, but he worked for one of the Democrat senators. But he filmed himself having gay sex. We don't know who the other person was, but in the footage, there's this guy who was like a Senate page or an intern or something. I mean, they let him go. But yeah, that's what we have right now. We truly have a circus. And if you don't believe that, look at, what was that, Trans Day at the White House that they had this year? And remember, Jill Biden was always like, we represent dignity. I'm like, well, that's an interesting definition. Okay. Let's see. Be on the table. Sexual humor still need adjustments. Okay, let's see. You forgot showering with his daughter and extorts Ukraine to fire the prosecutor. Yeah, that's right. He did. Right now, I can't think of one kind word to say Joe Biden. I can't either. Left out that tear his daughter's journal admits he molested his daughter. Oof, yeah. Hence the need for public service term limits. They thought of him when they brought it up. He is the worst president ever. 1977, Biden fights to keep schools segregated because, quote, allowing blacks to integrate would create a racial jungle. I guess even a clock is correct 2 times a day. He's like a president, but for stupid people. We've seen that. And this is the essence of the presidency right here is this. So I'm going to end it on there. I mean, that's nasty. I'm sorry. Sorry. If you were hungry before this, I'm sorry to ruin your appetite. But anyway, that's what we have right now. That's where we are as a country. And I love the principles that were founded on. I don't like what's going on right now, though. And definitely children are in charge. So anyway, thanks for watching, folks, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.